Hey, Chris Lipe here. I had my first Ado experience with Show just a few days ago, and overwhelmingly, the song that everybody was talking about needing to be the next song that I listened to was Crime and Punishment. Ado at her best, so they say. I think it's going to be pretty tough to top all the vocal nuances and playfulness that Ado showed in Show, but let's see what we got. I see what a lot of you were saying in that her voice is much more upfront and raw. So far, there's much less layering, which is exposing even more nuance, and it's going to be extra fun to unpack. If you like my approach to dissecting and analyzing vocalists that are inspiring, you will love my free voice course, where I teach you how to continually pull from inspiring singers and experiment in your own voice so that you can unlock things about your own voice that you never knew were there. Did you hear how she sighed into that note? You are able to get more aggression out of your voice if you ease in, if you release into powerful notes. She understands this. Entering from fry rather than sigh. Lots of variety. So right here, listen to how she grows into that distortion. It's not just on, she's doing some things with her voice. Really interesting. Then at the very end of that note, now she's got a way higher voice than me. So if I'm going to try to internalize some of this stuff, I have to drop it a little bit. But at the very end of that note that gets really distorted, you almost hear a sense of her limits. But here's what sets singers like Ado apart from other singers. She will sense that limit and then lean into it, push into it to expose the vulnerability, and more power, taste, and grit comes out of it. If I take a note and then I push it beyond my limits till my voice cracks and then lean into that crack, I can get a similar sound. This is similar to what she's doing here. A little bit more subtle maybe and much more honed, but it's the real thing, born out of playfulness and vulnerability. That one was a little different. It's a little lower. That distorted phrase, listen again here. Hear her squeak into it? Where she's bringing her head voice in and then landing in that chest voice note. Then she's compressing, like lifting something heavy. That's a little bit more of a mild distortion than the sort of thing she was doing before. love the rolled R. Ra, ra. I really enjoyed the turn of emotion and flavor into that major world. Everything was so pent up, and her vocals were accentuating this. And then we got major chords and a little bit more of an open arrangement, and she followed that perfectly with her voice. I want to hear that transition again. Anger! And you even hear her vocal timbre change a little bit. See, from this forward, more brash placement that works really well with some of the distortions that she's using, to a warmer, more nasal, pharyngeal sort of resonance. She's changing her placement up, and it follows, like her very vocal tone rests in this new tone of the music. If I was going ba-da-da, ba-da-da, that's fine. But if I want to take the placement back and make it a little bit more nasal and warm it up, it doesn't quite work when you're just listening to me do it a cappella, but listen for that tonal shift. It's what some American country singers use to bring you that like cozy feeling. She's doing that here. I like how she released out of that. Ooh, okay, gotta point this out. We hear her sigh into a lot of starting phrases, right? At the beginning of phrases. But did you hear how she sighed out of this one? Love the guitar. There's this mess at the end. She's so free and able to be so playful with her voice because she doesn't lock herself into wanting to sound a certain way, which so many more beginner vocalists do. She releases into notes and she releases out of notes, keeping her free from tension and loose enough to get all these amazing sounds. Such agility. Oh, I gotta hear that section again. Her pitch variance there, right? She's not being locked in via auto-tune or even via like, oh, I've got to hit the notes that work with the particular chord. She's sliding in, creating this extra bit of vulnerability and tension for the listener. That's not easy to do because so many times we let the train sort of run away. Like once we're off pitch, and we got to redo it. Nah, she's confident enough to be able to be off in strategic ways, but only off for just a second and then bring it back. And it makes you go, perfect. So she's transitioning to those different types of distortions I talked about at the beginning, leaning into one and then abandoning into another in pure freedom. You only discover how your voice can do some of these things if you are free enough to be extremely ugly and exposed and vulnerable. Let's listen to this again. Excuse my butchering of whatever word but she's applying that compressed then and that sigh kept her from getting locked up there. She slides up. And you heard that delay effect come on her voice again? Let's listen to that one more time. That is so planned and not planned, right? If I follow that up in my own voice without judgment, because it's probably going to sound terrible, but just to experience a bit of what she may have been experiencing and then find out how to play with my voice in a similar way. When was the last time you, as a vocalist or even as a speaker, let yourself abandon to a state where you were completely free of all judgment and letting heinous, weird sounds come out of your mouth? See what happens when you get to that state, being inspired by what Ado is doing here. And you might learn some things, if not about singing, just about your overall disposition and how you carry yourself and how you might hang on to emotions. This is a wonderful release of emotion. The messy guitar perfectly reinforces the messy way she exited from that vocal. Such complimentary stuff going on. Love the guitar tone. Wow. And the phrasing. It does. It has this vulnerable, messy feeling to it as well. That was quite a growth journey. Got to experience that again. A little bit of head voice there. Breathiness, raspiness, no compression. Listen to how she grows and compresses and then eventually adds the grit, and then she goes through all the stages of her aggression here in this very short amount of time. So fun to hear all those different contrasts. There is another great example of the resonance shift, the placement shift. Getting almost goofy with throwing the resonance back, more through the nasal passage, and that creates that whinier sound. If she were to sing there all the time, we'd sort of get tired of it. But if she were to sing all softly and forward the whole time, we'd probably get tired of that as well. So it's this dynamic movement that makes it so compelling. so hard to navigate those tonal center key changes. Wow. There are squeaks and sighs out of nearly every note, if not every phrase, in this section. She's taking a lot of breaths. She's on top of her breath. She's got a lot of excess supply, which is allowing her to have this more sort of side, vulnerable, desperate sound right here, even as she's carrying through this melody. If we listen to this section this time, where we've gone into this majorville, and then we go back to the last one, the performances are quite different. She's a little bit more desperate. She sounds more out of breath here, but really she is more in control of her breath usage, leaving more opportunity for her to be aggressive at the beginning and ends of her phrases. Super cool to dial up the intensity without changing the notes. You're changing your approach to the notes, not necessarily the notes. A lot of singers try to add more intensity by changing the notes all over the place, and there's some of that, but most of it is in her approach to the notes in this section, which is super subtle and awesome. Listen to that. Just cherry picking that one little section. Right there where she peaked up into her head voice just a little bit and then went back into her chest voice. Now listen to this sigh into the grit. Yeah! Oh. Tight. Ooh. And then an exit into pure fry. That's harder to do than you might think, but fun. It's a fun way to play with your voice. Letting the pitch just go. Eking out of it. Is that nasal again? I was just about to say, she's got so many different voices, so many different tones. It's not just that she's got them, though. It's that she exposes them. She plays and explores all the different ways air comes out of her face. And this is what enables all of these sounds. Not everybody's going to sound even remotely close to her in terms of the quality of her voice. But there's a lot more that we can do with our voices than we think there is, because we haven't experimented and explored how things feel as they exit our face in different ways. This is why she can sound like 3 or 4 different vocalists within one song, or even within a few lines. What fun to hear her in a more exposed, dry setting without as many layers. I got a really great handle on the different techniques and placements that she's using. If you haven't seen the other video I've done on Ado, check it out right here. And if you'd like to explore your voice more closely, finding out what it can really do, click the link below and join my free course. We'll see you for more.